Welcome to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. This is not your typical financial radio show. As a licensed CPA, insurance agent, and investment advisory representative, Chris coaches his clients on a holistic view of financial well-being with an objective of providing a complete financial strategy to fund life's goals. Chris is here to guide you down the path to the financial serenity you deserve. Now, here's Chris Cooper.
All right, folks, good morning. So I have a very special show here today. We're going to learn about some behind-the-scenes stuff behind Serenity Wealth. So a lot of people know us as Serenity Wealth and Serenity Wealth Radio. Well, behind many investment firms is an organization, a registered investment advisory firm, RIA, okay? So behind the scenes, this group helps manage, helps take care of things so that I can have great client interactions and conversations. So joining me in studio today, well, in his office, is Rob Hagg of Fortis Capital Advisors. Rob, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Chris. Good to see you.
Good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much for coming. So we talk all the time, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of folks I know in the industry. I know what Fortis Capital Advisors does for me and means to me. But, you know, sum it up for folks. What does Fortis Capital mean, and being powered by Fortis Capital to help advisors? What do you think it means to you guys and to the public?
Yeah, I mean, Fortis wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our advisors like you and Serenity, and then obviously your clients. And when we set forth to build Fortis, it was about how do we support advisors, still allowing great autonomy, but creating an infrastructure for them to focus on the most important thing, and that's identifying clients that need financial help, and most importantly, being able to spend the necessary time with those clients to lay out goals, hopes, dreams, and help them execute that. We don't want our advisors doing anything else but working with our clients, and that's why we support them like we do.
Well, I think that those are the important things. And, speaking candidly, that is the biggest thing that we can do to help people, is those conversations about goals, dreams, objectives, concerns, risks. There's a lot that goes into the investment industry, and what Fortis kind of does for me is take some of that noise and background and all that different back office items that I have to think about that are important, takes that off my plate so I can focus on the things that do matter, which is that client interaction and engagement.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, and I think that that's something that's unique. We also have is that infrastructure, and people don't think about this. When, if you think about being a business owner, we have to focus as business owners on a lot of different things. And I'm no different. I give financial guidance and advice, but you know what, Rob? I also have to take out the trash. I also have to think about, in the investment world, compliance and, marketing aspects and how to, execution of trades and the infrastructure, IT support. And those things are still important, if not more so, when you're dealing with client engagement and client, confidential information. And Fortis helps take that off my plate as well.
Right. The thing of it is, like you said, you got to also take out the trash. It doesn't matter what my role is or ownership. We have to be able to do all those things, right? But I can't be great at them all. So we have to bring great compliance in. We have to bring great traders in. But at the end of the day, no one's above anything else. And that's really the way we built this organization, is we're here to do it all behind the scenes for our advisors. But more importantly, we want our advisors not only have the confidence in, me and my partner, our two other partners, but also everybody that supports them and what their skill sets are.
Sure. And I think that that's something that not all firms offer to their advisors. And at the same point in time, I will also just say, another thing that I found is interesting with Fortis is being independent is a little bit lonely. And Rob, you mentioned this in some of our calls, right? It's a lonely business when you are independent, because you work with clients and that's great, but it's also very important to bounce ideas off of other advisors, which is not always easy to do when you're in an independent space.
Yeah, and Chris, I think we said, I said this early on when you and I first started talking. This business is boring and old and stale. It has not evolved. And what did I tell you? When we set out to do this, we wanted to disrupt this industry.
Yeah.
No one collaborates. And that is our fault. Because this business has grown up, other than moving from ticker tape to computers, there's been no evolution.
Yeah.
We act like a bunch of 6-year-olds that want to call everything ours, but never do anything about it. And that
Yeah.
was the thing we wanted to change. I think you jumped on board with.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, and that's I think what spoke to me is I look at our industry as a little bit more archaic, right? A little bit more stale in the thinking. I mean, when it takes, and I do help people on the insurance side as well. Perfect example. It took COVID to drive insurance companies to start moving away from paper applications. Rob, I mean, that's crazy. And it's not like the investment side is that much ahead of it either, right? They still talk about fax machines. So,
I mean, I think
it's important.
I think insurance companies are the only still industry that takes faxes. But, it's unfortunate. A global pandemic forces a business to evolve. And so that's what we really set out for, is that if it's not going to evolve on its own, let's evolve it for it.
Right.
And that's why I think, you and all other advisors that we've brought onto Fortis are kind of part of that movement of the evolution. This evolution of the RIA needs to change, and it's only going to change with thought leadership and people that want to do it a little bit different.
That's right. Well, and I think that those values are very important, and clients don't necessarily understand how important those things are. But when you have a firm that thinks like that and challenges the industry you're a part of, it ultimately does make your client experience that much better.
Right. And the thing is, we're not doing anything different at Fortis. We're doing it differently by the way we bring it together.
Right.
For years, advisors have worked with clients' attorneys and CPAs and insurance agents and you name it, and created this collective. But we strongly believe people want more advice from less people. Mm-hmm. And the only way to make that happen is to provide you with that bench of experts from taxes. Now, you're a CPA, but from with tax support, legal support, transition support, advanced market support, estate planning support. Unless I can provide that, unless we as a firm can provide that and allow you to a la carte and say, for this client situation, these are the 3 professionals that are going to support me in relaying the message to my client. Right. That's more advice from less people, and you're controlling the process and staying in line with what's most important, which is your client's objectives.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I call it the quarterback approach, right? Either a quarterback or a coach, right? We provide guidance, but that doesn't mean we're doing all of these different things. We cannot. It's not possible to. So we have to have that bench, that background to make sure that we understand all the things that are available in our playbook, right? And then we can figure out how to execute that accordingly.
Well, and that goes exactly into why our industry hasn't evolved. How many advisors do we see, hear, talk to that say, I'm a financial quarterback? And Chris, you've heard me say it, and you've been to our own advisors. Okay, what type of offense do you run?
Yeah.
Who are the 11 people you're going to put on the field with you? And how are they going to execute? Because you could be the quarterback, but a quarterback doesn't win a game.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes doesn't win games on his own. But he knows what type of quarterback he's supposed to be. And that is, for us, you've identified yourself as a quarterback. We know what your skill sets are. We've provided the support of the 10 other guys and gals that can jump on the field with you. It's your choice to pick who it is, because you know what your clients are facing in their quote unquote defense that they have to win over.
Sure. Absolutely. And so the tools that you have available for advisors, let's talk a little bit about those, because I don't think that everyone understands the offering that is out there that we would say is, the term I use it sometimes, but it's also kind of been coined in various areas of our industry along the way as holistic, right? Complete is what I like to say, a complete plan, right? Or a complete package. I like to say holistic because, quite frankly, what that means is I actually use the term agnostic a lot, because there's a lot of different solutions out there. Sometimes investments make sense. Sometimes insurance solutions make sense, right? I don't think either one is good or bad. I think either one is better at solving a certain problem, perhaps, for a certain situation. But I think that everything has pros and cons. And I think Fortis does a good job of offering those solutions to their advisors to make sure we're well-rounded.
Sure. Well, and that's the thing. Our platform, we want our advisors to have autonomy. We want them to be serial entrepreneurs, and we want them to be independent and act independent. But with that, the world that you're exposed to, there's an infinite number of options, from investments to insurance to estate plans or trust and positions or business transactions and legacy. And so for us, when we built this, is how do we take the best of the best, create continuity in the Fortis brand, bring those people here? Everybody talks about the family office or the virtual family office, but having a bunch of people in your Rolodex to refer people out is a nice offering, but that's
Yeah.
not truly giving advice. You've opened
Right.
up 5, 3, 10 different mouths to give advice alongside you. And that's why when we built the offering, we did it strategically. We started buying the CPA firms. We wanted to control that tax side of it. We wanted that in offering for our advisors. We knew insurance, annuities, disability, like long-term care was important as well, especially dealing in the business owner marketplace.
Sure.
We wanted to provide that platform. Investment management is a complex world, and we wanted to create clarity in that. So, led by David Cleary, who I think's been on your show,
Yeah.
oversees our investment program. And that's where our advisors can come. And if they don't want to use our tools, at least they have the brain power, the think tank, the ability to bounce it off the people that specialize in that skill set. So really, in all this evolution of our firm in a very short period of time, we identified what we needed. We brought it in and took a best of breed. We believe in be best at the basics. So what are your basics? And then from there, had our industry specialists and became tools for all of our advisors like you and Serenity.
Yeah. Well, and I love the investment calls that we get because it's collaborative, which we don't have in this independent space. You know, you can go to some of these big box places and they might have other advisors and things like that, but they also come with sales types of pitches. And
Yeah.
Rob, I don't think I've ever had you ask me once that, like, who did I talk to today? How many phone calls did I make? Now, we do in our weekly conversations talk about, hey, what's going on in your world? But it's always about how can Fortis help make my life easier?
Right. Again, you know, at the end of the day, this business, like you said, is lonely, but it's what you want to make out of it. God bless you if you want to be a lifestyle business and you've worked, you broke your body for years building it, and now you just want to have a nice, you know, final 5, 7, 10 years into the horizon line, right? And that's great. But if you want to run like a cheetah, we're going to keep up. And it's about developing the business. And so, yeah, I may not say, Chris, how many people have you talked to? But but that's also what not you as an advisor needs or asks for. We
Right.
do have advisors that ask for the accountability aspect of it. And I will hammer them on that only because they put it in the ether. They wanted it. And that was a big thing on why I moved into the development side and growth side of our business. Because if we needed, there was a missing piece. We were growing so fast, and we saw more and more advisors wanted a little bit more of what you and I do on a weekly basis as well.
Well, let's talk about that, Rob, because there's a lot of business owners that I talk to. And, you know, whenever you're building a business, and I know you started this with, you're one of 3 owners of the company, and you were in the CEO role not too long ago. But and I remember we had a conversation, I think before it was even public. I'm sorry if I'm spilling the beans a little bit here.
You're fine.
But, you know, you said, hey, just want to let you know, I think I'm going to step down as CEO because I think my skill set is better suited in this type of environment. And that's something that a lot of people don't appreciate and don't think about. And quite frankly, not many people would, Rob. So kudos to you. And, you know, I'm sure that there's a lot that goes into that decision.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. Look, titles are titles, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But the one thing, you know, and you said it earlier, is that maybe I'm telling you, you told me early on, we're very transparent. We don't do things behind curtains.
Yeah.
We always say, you may not like what I have to say, but it's always coming from a good spot.
Yeah.
And so that's really the transparency culture we have. Look, being CEO, it's the top of the top, right? I mean, in the
Well, it
business
sounds like
world.
it until you realize that you're responsible for all those other departments that you don't necessarily enjoy talking about and maybe aren't the best at doing, right?
Or the best to do it. And you know, the one thing
Yeah.
that I'm all about accountability and ownership. When we hit our trajectory and we, you know, I saw the horizon line of finally breaching that $1 million or $1 billion of AUM, I needed to do a 360 of the company. And during that exercise, I was realizing, one, where we needed to improve, which was we needed to create continuity across all the things that we offer. We
Sure.
needed to align our managing directors and the people that are bringing on advisors. And then we needed to develop them. And so when I thought about what was missing, and that's been part of my career for 20 plus years, I started then thinking about the things that would take time away from me being able to do that. And luckily, I've got two amazing partners that we have very spirited, very transparent conversations together. But one of my partners, Roman, who was our chief operating officer at the time, would be a better CEO. And so when I started to do the study, started to think about it, started to talk to advisors like you, it was easy to go to the partners and have full support to say, hey guys, I need to go to chief growth. I want to go into this development role. I want to grow this organization alongside you, but we need to take some of the things that I'm not good at off the table. Sure. And that's where Roman stepped in, and he's a phenomenal CEO, 10 times better than I probably was or could be. So it was the right decision. And I don't know, Chris, you've probably seen it. And I'm not taking the credit by any means for this, but it showed where the thinking started. I mean, we just got Financial Advisor Magazine's second fastest growing RIA in the country, and that was not a pay-to-play deal.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I saw that come out and I was like, wow, look at this. I'm part of one of the very fastest growing, number 2 in the entire country in this space. And that is incredible. And, you know, that was probably something that started being worked on or evaluated while this transition was underway. But it shows the growth and what you guys have accomplished, and it just makes sense. And it's going to be that much more important to do those 360 reviews, make sure it's the right people doing the right things, and that everyone's in the right spot, including the people that are at the top of the table.
100%. You know, you say the top of the table. The person at the top of the table is the client, then you.
Yeah, you're absolutely
right. I think
that's one of the things.
You've seen our org chart.
Yeah.
Even when I was CEO or now where I sit, you know, it's Roman and I, and we have this great infrastructure of leaders and executives, but you don't answer to us, we answer to you. And that's where we put you as the advisor, your team, and then the client, most importantly. And
that is really cool.
Trickle.
So when I think about org charts, right, because I spent time in the corporate world, right, you always think that CEO is in the top little box, right? But you're absolutely right. The client in our business is number 1, and that is my sole focus, right? Mm-hmm. So at Serenity Wealth, it's my clients, and then it's me. Now, quite frankly, Stacy, my wife, also works here, so we know who the boss is there, right? Rob, you can relate to that. I know you're 100%. Happily married as well, so that's how it works, right? But then we have to have a support. We have to have an infrastructure. And that support and infrastructure for Serenity Wealth is Fortis Capital. And that is where that organization falls right there. And it is really beautiful to see that understanding in an RIA platform that's helping me serve my clients, because ultimately I've seen this across multiple organizations, and there's not one that puts themselves in that kind of position to understand with that kind of transparency who comes first. So it's really refreshing, Rob, and it's seen throughout the organization as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And you know, it's not about being seen. We want it to be through our actions, right? And so if you're seeing it through our actions and not what we say, I think that's a big thing. I told an investment banker several years ago that I was talking to for the first time, I said, there's going to be 2 things that I want to tell you. And he's like, well, I have 2 questions for you first. And I said, okay, great. What are your questions? He's like, what is your role as a CEO? I said, it's a great one. My role as a CEO is, one, to make sure that all obstacles are removed that would get in the way of our advisors, making sure their clients hit the goal. That's
there you go.
And that's all. And direction, everything else goes from there.
Yeah.
The other thing and he goes, but so how do you prove your transparency and you know what your value proposition is? So I said, I can tell you this until you see it, but you'll see it. What we say we do.
Yeah.
And that's it. So you might have to wait and experience it, but when I tell you we do this, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's also why, you know, we've had such great growth, is talking to advisors about how lonely they are, then getting them on our biweekly call on Thursday, which is one of my favorite hours of the month, bringing those prospective advisors in to see our culture, see what we talk about, almost checks all the we do what we say boxes immediately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's unique. We all help people. At the end of the day, we do. But there are solutions that exist that maybe we don't know about, or maybe there's situations. And to have that group where we can just go to and type in a quick chat, hey, does anyone have any experience with this? And all of a sudden you go, oh, yes, I remember you talking about that just the other day. Let's set up a little bit of a time to chat about that. And it is never about trying to, what's in it for me or anything. No, it's about helping other advisors that you work with in a team atmosphere, which just makes everyone better.
Well, one thing I'll add, you mentioned it, not only in our collaboration call, but I've created that collaboration chat that we have intra-company. And I keep one screen on my desk here of my screens open only to that. And I watch everything that comes through there. Now, things that I know that I should answer, I jump in real quick. But every week I review the whole week of what's been discussed. And what you may have seen, and I've never told you this, a lot of things that we do inside our organization come from me watching what's being discussed internally.
Yeah.
And we then start to evolve, like our wealth tech position evolved because there are a lot of advisor help and advisor kind of things. Well, we needed a wealth tech person to be that master consultant. So, we don't make decisions by committee, but we definitely listen and then become, have high agility in making changes to our organization based off what I see advisor trends are.
Yeah. Well, and another one of the calls that we have, which I'm kind of an economics geek and, a market, geek, if you will, and a little bit of a tax geek as well. So I enjoy the investment calls because it's not about investments necessarily. It's about economic updates, the impacts of certain things. We spend a lot of time dissecting the big, beautiful bill and understanding what that really means to individuals. Sure, it matters at an institutional level, but ultimately all those thousands of pages or 1,000 or something pages that were in that bill, it boils down to really how does it affect individuals? And we spend a lot of time talking about that. And then not just on individuals over the next few years or the permanency of it, but then also the longer term ramifications of some of those potential tax cuts, right? It's just very powerful information.
Yeah, and that's what those are for. I mean, you're an advisor that's different. Some don't even care, right? They don't have to be there. But again, it's those resources that, however you want to lean into it, however you want to deploy it, they're here for a reason. It's up to our advisors if they choose to lean into it.
Now, one thing that I do think, and you mentioned this earlier, that the kind of the different pillars of Fortis Capital, one of those pillars is that CPA firm aspect of things, which I think is just incredible. I don't think a lot of other RIA firms are in that space thinking like that. But that goes into that disruption aspect of what you're trying to do and how you're trying to evolve really this industry as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a decision made a couple of years ago that, we've always said, and you're a CPA, I mean, if CPAs all were licensed, we'd all probably be out of business. They seem to be the most trusted advisor of their group in some cases. And we wanted to change that. Again, more advice, less people.
Sure.
And if we were to make some CPA acquisitions, which we learned a lot in by buying 3, and we'll finish with 5 here probably by the end of the year. Now we have that in-house. And not only something that we could grow and cultivate because we own that business now, but also kind of control that message and centralize it for our advisors to lean on. And it is important. It also diversifies our business from just a value standpoint.
Right.
And again, like, when we set out with this mission, kind of disrupts it a little bit more because, again, we can say we do tax, we can say we do that. Well, we do. We own it.
Yeah. Well, and it's a different game too. I mean, I'm a CPA that focuses on more strategic value and longer term tax planning, but that tax prep stuff, it's a whole nother beast. I mean, I tell people all the time, I do tax returns. I do 2 of them. I do my own and I do my company's, right? But I don't do other people's because you wouldn't see me for the first 4 or 5 months of the year, and that's not going to help you on develop a strategy, right? And quite frankly, a lot of those CPAs that do that tax prep, they don't have time to focus on the strategic value and that longer term thinking. It's a very different beast, but it's still very important to talk to clients about both of them.
Agreed. Yeah, we see a lot of value in it. We learned a lot of lessons, and we're going to continue to grow that and stay true to, that vertical as well.
Well, and here's another little niche that I think is interesting is, we talk about estate planning. That's a big piece of the puzzle, right? Whether it's business owners, business succession planning, which we handle, which we have resources to help us on 401k management and things like that, funding buy-sell agreements on the business side of things. But then also when we think about legacy, right? Our goals outlive us. And so we always have to be thinking about how we make sure that our money's going to the way we want it to. Right? Not to the government through higher taxes, not to, disinheriting our children or going through the probate process. And, you can bring in attorneys, but one of the things that Fortis did was started looking at relationships that do exist. And we have a relationship with a company called Wills and Trust. And we have that available to us. And I use it with my clients quite often.
Yeah. We were looking, again, this is, driven by, advisor need and client need. We did a long process of looking at what was out there. There's still a lot of people that really like working with their attorneys, and we work with a lot of them in that capacity. But for many of our clients, not a majority of them, but many of our clients, it was not the level of sophistication that maybe some attorneys that we deal with would charge for.
Sure.
And so was there a way to create very buttoned up legal offerings in a very affordable, approachable price for our advisors' clients? And that's when we did a joint venture with Wills and Trust. And I think you've been utilizing them pretty heavily, and it's been a great resource until we hear otherwise. Yeah.
Well, one of the challenges in estate planning is that there's just always little things that try to prohibit people from doing those things. Some of it's a cost thing. Some of it's a time thing. They don't want to go somewhere and do something. Is this, an online tool right for everybody? No, of course not. And I've got plenty of local relationships with attorneys that make sense for people. But I'm trying to make it easier for my clients to solve their real concerns. And estate planning is, I believe it wholeheartedly. It's more of a financial conversation than a legal one. But the legal stuff has to be buttoned up. It just has to be. And so I'm trying to take away some of those pain points to make sure it's easy for people to button down that legal side of it.
Well, it's about ease, right? There's some people that just don't want to do it because it doesn't seem easy. I was telling one of our advisors that, not long ago, there's a lot of things clients don't do because they're embarrassed.
Sure.
Like coming to you and saying I need a will or a trust can be embarrassing because they know that they probably should have done it 20 years ago.
Well, and it goes to just even providing financial statements. They don't think they've saved enough, or have they invested properly, right? It's you're letting people into kind of what you've been doing, and you're adding trying to get some value and input from that. But it's scary.
Yeah, it's funny though. I assimilate it to things. People won't walk out of a Target or a Walmart without their receipt. And if they do, they're not embarrassed to come back in and ask for one.
Right.
But when it comes to their 401k or their investments or their will, their trust, their beneficiary plannings, what can happen to them, their children, if something were to happen? They'll ignore it. And the most important part, your life's work, regardless of it from a monetary standpoint, is shown at the end, no matter how hard you worked, how well you saved or didn't save, it's there. Yeah. So you can't avoid it, and we can help. And so it's just funny, the mental aspect of, the economically, the most valuable thing is overlooked 100% of the time by so many people.
Yeah.
So
that's, I think, part of that disruption. So Rob, where do you think, I'm going to put you on the spot here as we close this out here. Where do you think this industry is going into the future?
Well, it's going to consolidate a lot. Okay. And when you consolidate, you get big, and you have a lot of big bigs.
Yeah.
And where we've set out is no matter how large we're going to be, to continue to be bespoke in our offering, and I'll allow our advisors to be bespoke in their offering.
Sure.
And so where does the industry go? Well, for those that are in it, they know that private equity is in here like gangbusters.
Yeah.
Multiples are high. People are getting wealthy. They're selling. It's about how many assets under management. And that's great. But what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of big wirehouses. We're going to have a lot of big Fisher Investments, Mariners, Mercers, But will they meet the expectations of what our clients, the ones that you aspire to work with, are yearning for or asking for?
Sure.
And probably because they didn't get big for no reason. But where's the industry going to go? My opinion is there's going to be monster wirehouses, as there already are. There's going to be huge aggregator RIAs throughout the country. And there's going to be a lot of mom and pop ones that are just trying to hang on.
Yeah.
And where we want to sit is we want to look and feel mom and pop, but we're right up there with the big boys. And
Yeah.
that's also why we got, the recognition we did over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm going to say, I think it's because of that disruption, right? Trying to figure out how to stay ahead of the curve, disrupt the industry, but always holding that true value of that client interaction, that customer experience is first and foremost. Absolutely.
Agreed. And that's what we're going to continue to provide. And, I told my daughter this when we started it, and she continued to ask, is it working? Is it working? Is it working? And I told her when we hit, 300 million, yeah, honey, it's working. And then we were playing golf last week, and she asked me again, it's been a while. She goes, Dad, did it work? I said, it's not done. There's way too many more advisors that we need to help disrupt the marketplace.
Yeah.
And they have too many clients that are being underserved.
Yep.
And so where are we going to be? We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep disrupting. We're going to be unapologetic for everything. As long as our clients continue to grow and meet their goals, expectations, hopes, goals, and dreams, generationally and currently. And so we just need more advisors like you.
I love it. Well, Rob, thank you so much. I got to tell you, folks, I am very proud. Serenity Wealth Management here, powered by Fortis Capital Advisors. So
we love it, Chris.
Thanks for coming on, Rob.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
All right. When you think about having a good business plan and a good business model, you have to think about an infrastructure of support. And really, that doesn't just stop at businesses. That actually applies to individuals as well. It's why we seek financial guidance. It's why we work with advisors. It's why we work with professionals. We need to make sure we have the infrastructure in our day-to-day lives to support our financial well-being. That's true of business owners as well. And Serenity Wealth, I'm no different. I need to have a good backbone, a good infrastructure to make sure I can support my clients. And that is what an RIA firm really does. A registered investment advisory firm, Fortis Capital Advisors, is who helps make sure we have the power to help our clients be successful. It's not about making sure we know the numbers. It's not about making sure we're sold the best things and told to go make a bunch of phone calls to clients. No, a good firm makes sure we stay compliant, make sure we stay up to date, and make sure we stay connected so that we can focus on things that matter to our clients, and that's serving their individual needs. Okay. It's incredibly important of any business to have that infrastructure in place. And it's really neat to hear that really an investment firm is no different than any other business, right? It's still run by the same, kind of infrastructure, whether some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, just kind of depends on each and every organization's goals, objectives. But what I love is being part of the Fortis Capital Group and that disruptive mentality, changing a little bit of an archaic industry into something that actually is more focused on that client-focused communication, that client-first mentality. Sure, we have this fiduciary statement, which by all means is something that we, it's a question I get often asked, are you a fiduciary? Yeah, I am, but that just means I'm legally obligated to do what's in people's best interest. Well, that's not really what excites people. And by quite frankly, marketing that way, why would you want to market that way? That's a terrible strategy to lead with. You want to work with people that want to do what's in their best interest of the people they serve. That's what matters most. And Fortis Capital gives me the ability to serve my clients the way they deserve to be served. And they serve me the way I need to be able to, so I can help my clients. It's really important. That fiduciary standard, it's fine. Sure, I have a legal obligation, but gosh, you know what? I would prefer to just do what's in my client's best interest because I'm kind of a good person, right? It's a big deal, and we need to be well-rounded. We need to understand all the aspects of investments. It's not just the investment philosophies and guidance in that side of things, but there's also insurance needs. Those insurance solutions make a difference to somebody's portfolio. They solve problems. All vehicles solve problems. The key is to have a good, holistic plan and a relationship that you can rely on and trust. And that's more than just fiduciary. That goes a long way. And that's why we love being powered by Fortis Capital here at Serenity Wealth Management. I'm glad you got to tune in and hear a little bit about the growth engine that powers Serenity Wealth Management. Tune in next week and every week on NewsTalkSTL and your social media outlets, SerenityWealthNow.com.
Serenity Now! This is Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.